Does that help? A little bit? Be a bit relaxed? The topic of this talk is I don't often fail, but when I do, which obviously much better fits into the internet meme it was designed for. The other title you could give this chat is Failure is a Mindset and How to Fix It. Now, how many of you are founders here? CEOs? How many of you are in very high-pressure jobs? Okay, the cameraman's got his hand up. Now, for those of you, how many of you have suffered sleepless nights over work? Or just really being stressed out? So stressed out you didn't feel productive anymore. That you were busy all day, but you got nothing done. Yeah? I think all the people that don't have their hands up are lying. You know, it's when you're a startup founder, you're in this roller coaster, ups and downs. And I remember when I was doing my first startup, it would sometimes be from day to day, but sometimes within 15 minutes, complete elation to total depressedness. And I think there's quite a few here that will recognize this. This is what I call a failure mindset, which is driven by scarcity thinking. And we're all under this high-pressure environment, and it's not helped by sort of the culture that's out there, like this guy, he's a jackass, he's the CEO of Intel, he probably knows what he's doing, but don't write a book like this. And here's this statement that sort of drives all of us, or sort of that we're always bombarded with, that you have to suffer in order to be successful. Let's have a quick show of hands to see who agrees with this. Okay, I just sort of, okay, we're cool. We got some brave people that I think this is a lie. Okay? And I'm going to explain to you why. The reality is that to build a unicorn or any big company, you have to be at your best. You can't have a string of bad days. You have to have a string of really good days. Building that is hard. And you have to be at your best most of the time. And being at your best is a performance thing which is tied to your attitude. And it's a particular way of thinking that keeps you performing. And that is what I call abundance thinking. And in the next 20 minutes, I'll give you a short history of my startup, and then 6 tips to stay sane, be more successful, to win, not just in your startup. Whoops. Uh-oh. I think I pressed the wrong button, 1 sec. We're back. How to win, not just in your startup or your company, but in your life. First, a little warning. I have a lot of slides, and I've sort of put on a graph how high the pain is of the audience compared to the number of slides that we have. And the graph is pretty interesting. It's a classic S-curve. And around 20, it goes up pretty steep. And below that, you have this comfy zone, right? You can keep your attention there. And above that, there's this area of extreme pain and disaster. So I want to warn you that there's 115 slides in this presentation. So you're in for a ride. A couple disclaimers. This is not me. I'm not a guru. And I have to stand right here. I'm just human like you guys. It's just lessons I've learned, and hopefully you guys can take something away from this. I can stand there and say that this way because I feel pretty humble now. I've been humbled through experience, but it wasn't always that way. Back in 2006, I had a successful web agency. We were doing very well, and I was in a rock band. That's me at the front. True story. And I thought I was Kanye West. And I loved myself like Kanye loves Kanye. True story. And my goal was to change the motherfucking world. You know, we were in this agency and we were building all these awesome products, or at least had ideas for our clients, and they would get killed in the boardroom. So being the cocky guys that we were, we thought, you know what, we can do this ourselves. So we set out to create something that would actually make a difference. To do that, we looked at all the big companies, and we thought, what did these guys have in common? And we realized the common factor was that they all had 2 O's in the name. And so we founded our company called Social with 2 O's in the name, bound to be a success. Now, I'll just quickly skip through this next slide, which tells you what Social is. This is a super old slide from 2000-something. And basically what we did is we built a unified address book that grabbed all your different address books from your phone and your computer and combined it into one and gave you a backup. And the reason we called it Social is that we believed your most important social network lives on your phone. You call somebody to have a beer, that's somebody you care about, not some stupid thing on the cloud, on the internet. Facebook was, so we were going to be the next big thing. So we set out. This was back in the day when we had phones that looked like this, with way too many buttons, which half you never used. Small team, we liked drinking beer. We set out with this great idea, and we launched an alpha. Then we went to London and presented this thing, and we had a standing ovation. I have never since seen a crowd like that. I was amazed. Apparently, there was a huge pain, and and I made jokes about their mom, and it was really inappropriate, but the English being, very self-deprecating, it worked. So that was funny. We came back home, and we managed to get some funding. So all that money we put into creating a beta, which we're pretty happy about, and then we needed to come up with a marketing plan. And I just realized I needed some audio. Is there a way to quickly arrange that, or is that going to take a while? To get some audio? Is it possible? It's worth it, trust me. Because what we came up with is this marketing plan that involved this guy, Mr. David Hasselhoff, and we created a short video that I want to show you that I haven't shown in like years because I got sued by David Hasselhoff that we weren't allowed to use his image anymore. And we tried to get him on board as an investor that we could use his image. That was a stupid idea. And cool. So we made this little video, and this is what it looks like.
Kid, call Devin, will you? I need to ask him something.
No, Michael, I do not have that number.
It's on the computer at the foundation.
Exactly. You forgot to sync before we left.
Ah, but there should be some way to fix this.
Michael, I have found this charming service that might give us what we need.
What is it, kid? More cables? More spam? I don't want another half-assed sync tool.
No, Michael, this looks like no-hassle contacts. If they deliver, I'm game.
Okay, kid, give them a ring.
Hello, Michael. Hello, Kit.
Hello, Stefan.
What can I do for you?
Kid here tells me you can help me out. My contacts are a mess.
Yes, that's true. Let me explain. Most people have many devices and use different applications where they need their contacts. That's why Social provides a system that syncs your contacts between your devices and the web applications you use in a simple and hassle-free way.
That sounds great. Hook us up.
I already have Michael. You want me to call Devin now?
No, man, I'm hungry. Let's get a cheeseburger.
So yeah. Please don't tell the Hoff I showed that. He might come by and get angry if he... I'll just give him a drink, it'll be fine. So yeah, things were going well, it was awesome. And then the stock market crashed. We actually had about, I think, 5 or 6 big investors lined up, and we decided to sign with 3 of them. And then they couldn't pay their money. So these were angels. Their money was stuck in real estate, and it was just horrible. So we toned down the team. We still drank beer. And we kept hacking away, and we got these messages like this guy that said he had tears of joy from using this thing. And so we knew we were on this good path. And it was these kind of moments that was one of the highs, where you get positive feedback and you're like, yeah, cool, we're kicking ass. One problem we never had a business model that actually worked. We were selling this directly to consumers, and in hindsight, I don't think that was the smartest way to go about it. So we started looking in 2011 for potential buyers, and we talked to LinkedIn, and we went over there, and we had awesome conversations, and didn't go through. For whatever reason, just didn't happen. I'd love to hear or see the report where the final no came out, but I never got it. So then we went to Germany and talked to Xing, or Crossing, or Xing, or however you're supposed to pronounce it. Zing with a Z. Yeah, it's an X. So anyway, I remember still sitting, we'd done all the due diligence, we had a term sheet, it was favorable, and sitting in this meeting room with all the top guys, and they started using our tool. And one of the guys says, hey, cool, you're adding contacts to my address book. I only had 400 contacts, and now I have 600. And the other guy goes, yeah, cool, I have 800. And the next one goes, oh, now I have 1,200. And our product exploded in an hour meeting. And what was the problem is they had their own sync engine on top of ours, and they were sort of adding in circles, and it was a nightmare. And so I remember walking away from that going, I am a failure. How could I screw this up? So anyway, we found a buyer in the end. That didn't go through, and we sold to a French company. And the French company is called Fiadio, and it was a win. You know, our product had a home. The investors got 4 times their money back. My team had a job. I didn't have debt. That was really nice. I didn't get any money. It was a paper deal. I got a little bit of money so I could buy a boat. You might think, wow, until you see which boat it was. And I love this boat. Don't laugh at my boat. This is my joy. I spend hours on this thing scrubbing off rust. It's some people's hobbies. Anyway, I hadn't changed the world. To me, this thing felt like a failure. I was an employee of a corporate. It's like the worst thing I never wanted to be. First, I didn't mind. I was making good money and had more resources to build great products. And my team, my previous social team, did awesome jobs. But none of these were released by guys in a boardroom. This is not what I'd signed up for. All these years of suffering. And one thing I didn't show you, but the bottom half of the timeline where we were drinking beer until we sold it took about 2 years, and that was hell. For me personally, it was hell. It was super hard, and I'm super grateful for that my friends actually remained my friends in that time, because I was an ass. I was always talking about my own startup in a not really energetic way. I was depleted. I would show up on Mondays going, oh, what do I do? So stuck in the moment. And then the other thing that didn't help is that this is the stock of the company that bought us. I can't mention their name because that wouldn't be nice. But the moment they went on the stock exchange in 2014, I had 6 months of vesting. So the red line is where I could have sold or was allowed to. And thankfully, the green line is where I actually managed to sell. So it wasn't that bad. But those 2 years of grinding on and suffering, I learned so much. And I'd like to give you some of those lessons today. And the summary of this is that thinking you're Kanye does not make you the best musician. My attitude sucked. And in short, if I look back now, and I would think, if I would have been successful, I would have been a jerk for the rest of my life, because I thought it would have been me. I wasn't ready for success. I really cared too much about what other people thought about me. I thought I could wing it. I overestimated my abilities, and I couldn't see the road to get to where I was trying to get. I was reactive, and I suffered, and I had this scarcity-driven attitude. Does this ring a bell with some of you? You guys recognize this? It's a dangerous thing you don't have to put your hands up, but just think about it for a second. One thing I realized looking back is that those moments where I thought I didn't have any choices, I did. But I couldn't see them because I had my head down. Now, this is a great quote, and a lot of what I'm sharing is from a researcher called Katja Veresen. And she's the one that said, you're not going to build $1 billion business on a string of bad days. It has to be a sequence of your very best, and your performance is the thing that determines that, and that is tied 100% to your attitude. So the real question is, how do you upgrade your script while you're in it? So this is if you're an actor in a movie, you're just doing the acting. You're not in charge of the script. If you're the director, you can change the script while it's going. You see something's wrong. As a startup founder or as somebody in a high-pressure position, we often think we're the actors. And it's true. Where what we should be doing is trying to see how can we be the directors. So how do you upgrade the script while you're still in it? How do you get from being reactive to being proactive, from being that actor to a director? First of all, you need to realize that you're there. You need to realize that you're being reactive and that you're just the actor. Secondly, you need the tools and tactics and actions to get to the other side where you actually want to be. And that's determined largely by your point of view. If you're in a scarcity point of view, you feel like you're the victim. You can be a bully, or you're just tired. On the other side, you're in the driver's seat. And this Veresen is very interesting. She's done this study, and this is a sort of chart to see where you are in terms of your mental energy. And I'll try and share the link later so you guys can actually read it. But she has this chart to see, okay, where are you? Are you on the red side, the scarcity side, or on the abundance side where you're in charge? So things that I've learned of how to get from that scarcity mindset to the abundance mindset. First of all, it's about noticing. The weird thing is we're wired not to notice. When your head's down working, you're sort of like trying to get that shit done. You know, that's the thing that we need to do. But you can't see anymore what's around you. And I just have a short video to show you. You probably might have seen this. It's a test to see how good your focus is. So there's a bunch of players here, and there's some with a white shirt on. And the challenge is to count how many times they pass the ball around. So the correct answer is 15. Who saw something funny in that video? You might laugh. But guaranteed you guys have been in a situation where you didn't see the fucking gorilla right behind you. So the key here is to every now and then force yourself to take the time and the energy to pause and look around. Ask yourself questions like, if I were to experience this situation differently, what would I see? What are my choices? What are actually my choices? Not about saying I don't have any choices, but what are they actually? And if you could see, okay, what positive thing can I say about this that I could notice? These questions grab you out of this scarcity and into abundance. And it helps you let go of limiting beliefs and your made-up boundaries. When we were doing social, my CTO came to us with this great idea. He said, look, we have the social graph, we have the address book of hundreds of thousands of people. One frustration that he had was texting was expensive. He said, what if we use that and allow over-the-air messages for free because we have the social graph? And I was like, wow, that's interesting. But you know what? We need to stick to the vision, stick to what we've got. And I don't know if any of you realize, but he was describing the business model of WhatsApp. So, way to go to miss your unicorn, or the gorilla in this case. Second point is about neutrality. The world is not fair or unfair, it just is. And if you can see that and be neutral about it, what would you notice differently? It allows you to see complex situations and acknowledge that it's complex. Write down the opposing opinions about something and let people be heard before you make a decision. And it's a little bit of an open door, and it's a little bit the same as noticing, but it's super important to just say, okay, it's okay, and try and have an open mind about it. Third one, super important, is priming. How do you prime your own attitude? Because your attitude dictates what you see. And there's a quote, forget who it's from, someone just told me this outside before, your attitude dictates your altitude. And the attitude comes from, of course, doing the normal stuff like sleeping well, eating well, exercise. That's more of stuff that takes a bit more effort. But you can hack this in a much shorter way. For example, watch Louis C.K. make some funny jokes. Take a nap at work. Have a memory bank of your wins in pictures or a video of something that you've done that you're proud of. Soundtracks. Get up and walk. Find somebody to talk to. It doesn't have to take more than 5 minutes. Here's one of my favorite ones. It's okay, I'll turn it down. So this is AC/DC, Thunderstruck, and this has recently become one of my favorites because my son loves this fire and rescue planes, right? And every time the song comes on, he starts running around and really happy. And he keeps asking me, put on the fire song. And now when I hear this track, I do the same thing that he does, this 3-year-old dancing, and it's become this sort of instant reset of my attitude. Here's another favorite quote. You should do 10 minutes of meditation each day unless you're busy. Then you should do 20. And the real question is, how do you recharge your batteries? And it doesn't have to take long. Take 5 minutes every day. If you're feeling stressed, recognize it, step out of it, and do something. Guaranteed, you'll come back much more productive and much more at your actual best. Item 4, self-compassion. One of my favorite books of all time, The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck. He starts off with the following sentence: life is difficult. And if you can deal with this one simple fact, it becomes much easier. Such a paradox. How do you do that? Admit that it hurts. I'm feeling, suffer, it's painful. Okay. Realize that everybody does. It's maybe not normal, but it happens a lot. And then do something kind for yourself. A back rub, a massage, I don't know, take that chocolate bar, or I don't know, maybe that's not the right example. Even holding your hand on your heart for a minute actually gets the right chemicals flowing. It's the key here is to do something that actually makes you feel better, concretely better after you've done it. And studies have shown that more compassion gives you greater grit. So there's a correlation between those two. Soldiers coming back from war that had less PTSD were the ones that actually had more self-compassion than the ones that didn't. Second to last, generosity. This is one of my favorite because it really unlocks a lot of what we are as humans and how you feed and get energy from each other. And it's about knowing your currency, not lei or euro, which I screwed up trying to buy a beer with a 50-euro note, and I got blank stares. I'm not talking about that currency. I'm talking about the currency that you have in abundance already, your skill set. The knowledge you have, the fact that you can be kind to people, that you can appreciate them, that you have access to resources, the intros you can give. Dan over here, sitting over there, is a great example of someone that's super generous in terms of listening, sharing, connecting, and okay, I just saw you, that's why I'm using you as an example. I beg your forgiveness, but there's so many of you doing that here, and that's a currency. And the cool thing is, if you do that to others, it will come back. Maybe you're giving some kind of intro, and you're getting some kind of advice back. This is cool because it also helps you find mentors. Your mentors will also learn from your generosity. So it's not just a one-way relationship in that sense. And mentors are super key in staying on your game because what they can do is they can actually give you certainty. If they're a good mentor, they've probably been in your situation before and they're much more anchored. And if you're feeling all uncertain about it, then they could say, hey, look, I've seen this before, I know how it goes, it's a rough ride, but you know what? Have some of my certainty that it will be okay. I wish I had a mentor like that during my time, my 2 years of hell. And I'm sure each of you guys would love somebody that can say that actually lands. Lastly, appreciation. It's a big form of generosity. How many times have you seen somebody's performance just shoot through the roof when they got a compliment, a real good compliment, and they said, good job? You know, it has to be concrete, something like, hey, remember that thing you did, and you delivered it on time, and that was the structure, and it really helped me deliver. Thank you. Good job. You know, the physical stance of somebody immediately will change. We built this time machine. It actually worked, because we would go inside. It's called the TARDIS. It's from Doctor Who. That's where my bow tie inspiration comes from. We would take people to talk to their future self, and then they would come back super energized. And the question we asked, like, what does your future self do differently than what you've been doing now? And the answers were all over the place. But it was our way of being generous, and they kept paying this forward and doing the same thing to other people and having the same types of conversation. That's me dressed up like a pirate. The last one. It's more like a steam pirate. I don't think it's an actual, it's a weird pirate anyway. Lastly, gratitude. This is about seeing the glass half full or half empty. And as humans, we tend to forget our wins. And it's super important that we explicitly record what we've done and what we've actually achieved. Because the human brain operates in feedback loops. You know, we don't operate in a way where we're thinking in the future, that you say, once I get that funding, it'll be okay. If I get that sale, sure, you know, I'll be break even. The higher that person, my workload will be less. You know, it goes on and on and on and ever, and it's never enough. And that is what gratitude fixes. I've recently started having a journal of wins, and this is a week or two in February. I was just scrolling through them before I came up here. It was like, wow. Ooh, and I instantly felt better. It was like, cool, it really works. Now, as people like us in a knowledge industry where we're under high pressure, there will always be fires. And the temptation is to scream, fire, get out. But that's exactly when you need these habits the most. Because when you're suffering, you're not at your best. You're not actually able to solve it in an effective way. And you want to be at your best, right? Right? So, know that it's hard. The fact is, you're going to be the first to do whatever you're doing. At least if you're well, most of you guys will be doing something fresh and new, and you'll be trying to do it in a new way. But if you remember why you're doing it, then you'll put up with that pain and you'll have the energy to put up with it, like a boxer going into a ring. Remember this, the first person to go through a wall will be the one with blood on his face. And this guy's smiling because he's proud of what he's done. So looking back, all the stuff I've learned doing social, and now where I'm standing in PR.co, I'm happy to sort of, you know, be the guy with blood on my face. I know it's going to be hard, but at least I have the tools now to deal with it and actually, hopefully, change the world in a positive way. So thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.